Alrighty, YouTube friends, here we are with another one. This one being with the old LB7. Well, actually at this point this engine's a little bit of everything because the block came out of a LML 2008, whatever that is. So the crank is also a 2008. So I'm going to be putting on a 2008 harmonic balancer and flywheel and stuff. But I've got LB7 heads, which is 01 to 04. And then the new thing that I'm trying to make work in this project is I purchased an LML oil pump and pickup tube. And for those who don't know, the LML was your 2010 or 11 and newer, and supposedly this timing cover, which is LB7, will not cover this LML pump, nor will it accommodate the pickup tube. So, I've done a little bit of research on this. There's not very much information on it, but it does seem like some people have done it, and they're fairly successful. So, what we're going to give a try is see what needs to be done to that pump to make it fit under this cover with the gears that are in there. Right off the rip, one thing that they say doesn't work with this pump, well, actually, let me mount it first. Okay, so with the pump in position, which this is just a used pump that I found online because you're going to see we're going to have to do a little work to it to make everything fit the way it's supposed to. But right off the rip, pump's in position. So far looks okay, like it should. Well, then we have to install our crankshaft reluctor wheel with the drive gear for the oil pump. So you put that on, and you get a close look at that, you'll see it actually hits the oil pump, but not very much. Only a very little amount does it actually hit. So that's one thing that we have to take into account. Then we have the drive gear, slave gear, I don't know what you want to call it, for the oil pump. You install that. Then you have the problem where this gear sits too far out to mesh correctly, which, mind you, this part has to go in a little bit because there's it hits the oil pump itself. So this drive gear sticks out too far, and it has to go in a little bit. And then, cherry on top, you have the inside of the timing cover. This divot right here is where that nut is supposed to sit. And if I take this one-handedly and I try to install it very carefully, when I try to install it, you'll see there's actually a gap here because it's hitting that nut on the inside of the timing cover. So that's a problem. Captain Obvious. So I have done a little bit of research on this. There is some information, not very much, just a little bit of information on this. And basically, the way it works out is you do a tiny bit of machining through here to accommodate this reluctor wheel and let that slide in where it belongs. And then to get this gear to actually mesh correctly with that drive gear, you machine off this lug right here. This aluminum, I don't know what you want to call it, something. You machine that off, and you take this shaft and you press it deeper into the oil pump, which does rise another problem. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right with this Florida rain. So the next problem is, you see that's the back side of that shaft. So if I were to push this deeper in, it will actually start to hang out at the back side here, and that will interfere with the actual block, because there's not enough room, though honestly looks like there's enough room. But actually, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to, but it looks like you could just notch into this rib right here, and you'd be able to accommodate that shaft hanging out the back. Now, I'm not going to do that because, per what I read on the internet, you can push the shaft out and then cut it off, and that will do the trick. So, this pump is the cheapest used pump I could find on eBay, because I plan to practice on this, and if it comes out good, I'm gonna buy a nice aftermarket pump, possibly a Waggler, whatever the big name is, where they drill and pin, and then I'm gonna get the new one machined to match. So I'm gonna put this back on the motor somehow. There we go. There we go. So that's mounted back. We're going to take our reluctor wheel here, stick that back on there. We can kind of see the shape that we need to do, but I think I'm going to take a marker and draw that line so that I know what I need to do going forward. Getting a little scatterbrained on you right now. What I'd like to talk about in addition to this is, one might ask the question, why not just change all of these other parts to accommodate the oil pump? Because, you know, this did come stock in a 2010, so why not use 2010 reluctor wheel with the 2010 cover and make it where this can accommodate? The problem, and I cannot verify this, but I believe it, is when they push this gear out for the 2010s, they also push out the whole timing cover, which means everything on the front of the engine for your accessory drives, you know, your alternator and all of that stuff, it all has to move out to accommodate your thicker pump. And then also your water pump changes, because now the spacing on that is different too. And then the upper oil pan also has a problem where you got to change that technically to accommodate the pickup tube, because the pickup tube is much larger. So in my opinion, this is the best thing to do, is to modify the pump to fit the engine, because it saves me a bunch of money on covers, belts, brackets, all kinds of things. So with a little bit of modification, we should be able to make this work. And you also might be asking, why do I want an LML pump? Why not just use an LB7 pump? And for the longest time, I had planned on using an LB7 pump, hence why I made no effort to change any of this in advance. But there's two problems that I have with the LB7 pump. One, they're really hard to buy right now. Like, there's a couple places you can pick them up for like $500. Cool. But you're paying for that to be available. It seems to be hard to find OEM GM, like AC Delco or whatever pump it is from the factory. It's hard to find those, and those seem to be the only ones with a good reputation. I was really tempted by the Mellings oil pump, because it had an updated design that uses the what's that called with the, this is a gear pump. The Mellings design uses a I don't know what you would call it. I can't remember the name. I'll have to insert it in the editing. Um, Same thing as like an LS motor would use nowadays or something like that. And it's supposed to be a more efficient pump at high RPM, which is awesome because apparently these gear pumps have a tendency to cavitate. But the problem is, everybody that I've come across in my research is saying that the Mellings pump is a little unpredictable when it comes to quality control, and that is not something I'm willing to put on my engine. So I want OEM pumps, GM OEM pumps, and the only way to get an OEM GM pump is to pay a lot of money for an aftermarket company to have already pinned and shimmed it, which is an upgrade I'm interested in, but we're talking, I think it's $500 to buy this pump. This LML pump from Wagner, pinned and shimmed, comes out to, I think it was $320. The pump's cheaper. It flows 11% more oil than the LB7 pump, which means it gives me the ability to run, say, the bigger piston squirters for keeping the underside of the pistons cooled down with the oil and stuff. So that's something I may consider upgrading if I have a pump that can accommodate that. Something else I'm very interested on this engine is to do a bypass filtration system, and though they are not the most demanding things in the world for oil flow, they do take some of it. So if I'm going to take some away, I'd like to add some back. So my plan is to make this pump work with my covers. Long story long. So first things first, I'm going to draw my little line for the circle so that we know where to do our machining work to get this to accommodate properly. I have a sneaking suspicion this could be done with a grinder, but I have connections where I can throw this onto a milling machine and mill it out and make it really pretty. That's what I'm going to try to do. So, but I'm going to draw my line where that sits, and then we're going to figure out how much has to come off to get it to fit accordingly. Okay, so we now know where it interacts with this pump body. Something that is a little bit of a challenge here is I need to know how much further to stick this in to get it to sit right, which it looks like it's almost nothing. I'm going to guess like 30 thousandths of an inch. But I have no way of measuring that because it's in such a bad spot. But I have this handy magnet that I'm going to stick into here. I got to make the magnet a little smaller so it fits better. But I know how thick this magnet is. Once I measure it, I don't actually know yet. Then I can stick that in there, and when I know how much this hangs out, then I know I can take my measurement, take away the thickness of the magnet, and I will know just how much needs to come off of the face of the pump to accommodate. So there's my magnet, shrunk down a little bit. Stick it right in there where we know it's going to interfere. There we go. Yeah, the magnet's actually holding it really nicely. It's on there good. That's a good magnet. I like that magnet. I'm actually going to go as far as to take the other half. I'll take that other half and I'll stick it on the other side. That way it pulls nice and evenly, so we get a nice even measurement there. But before we get too carried away here, I got my calipers zeroed out. Let's figure out how thick this magnet is. Looks like it says 0.11 of an inch. So we'll call that 100 thou. It's 110 thou. let's get our thing installed. There we go, nice and seated. So now, looking at this, we can pick a spot, any spot that looks like it would be accurate. I'm going to go off of this particular nub right here. We are measuring, that is 0.194, so we can just round that up to 0.2, so 200 thou, because I would like that little extra clearance. I don't want it to touch, you know. So 200 thou. Then we got to take off the thickness of this thing from my measurement, which is 0.13, so 70 thousandths of an inch is what that would is the current clearance between there. And yeah, that seems accurate enough. Okay, let me run through that one more time so I don't confuse myself. So right now, this measurement is 0.196. I'm going to call that 0.2. I should really write this down. Okay. So right now we're at, wow. It's just how my shop works. There we go. There was a pen. So 0.197. That's the face of this to the face of that nub, is what we're currently at. Now we need to subtract the thickness of this reluctor wheel, which is 0.13 minus 0.130, because it looks good. So that gives us 0.067. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so that's our current measurement point. So that's where we're at right now. So then we got to take the thickness of our magnet, which is 0.109, 0.11. So subtract 0.11. Now we're getting a negative number, which should be, if I know how to do math right, -67 would be 50, 40. I need to check my math because I'm not 100% sure if I'm correct, but I think that's our number, 43 thousandths of an inch. That's how much needs to come off of the face right at this one line right here. 43 thousandths, and that will clearance this. But of course, we want a little extra clearance, so we'll probably do something more like 50 thousandths, 0.05. And that will make it where once it's installed, there'll be a little extra leeway where we don't have to worry so much about any deflection hitting the pump. I will have to check my math, but I'm pretty confident that's right. So now, I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to mark right here, because that's where I did my measuring from, right? Right there. So when I go to do the machine work, I'll touch my tool off right here, and I'll know I got to come in 50 thousandths of an inch from this height. Even if this hits first or that hits first, this is where I'm doing my measuring from. So, then we can use the same numbers to figure out that the oil pump shaft needs to go in further too. So, dang it. We still got our spacer magnet in there, which is 0.11 of an inch, 110 thou. We're going to take our drive gear here. We're going to set it in here. Let me figure out what size this is so I can give it a light snug. Alright, light snug. So, now we take this measurement here. I'm going to start by setting it too deep, and I'm just going to push my calipers. Alright, oh dang it, my magnet's messing me up. So we're going to come in here, we're going to push it till it just touches. So that gives us 0.09. So then 0.09, let's write this down. We could do separate math, even though this one's really easy math. So 0.09 is where it needs to go to get it to intersect, but then we have to add the 0.11 for the shim that's behind her with the magnet. So that's a nice easy 200 thou. We got to get this gear to move in 200 thousandths of an inch, and we'll be able to accommodate the drive gear. And let me check the timing cover, because I have a sneaking suspicion that's all it needs, because I've heard of people grinding on this to make it fit, but 200 thousandths, I bet you the gap in the cover's smaller than that. Alright. Yep, I'm measuring 0.121, which is approximately 1/8 of an inch. So you take 200 thou off of that, it will have plenty of clearance. Oh boy. Must have Loctite on them. Not sure if that helped or not. I am destroying the tip of my driver bit though. Nope, there went my tip. Nice. Destroyed the tip and the screw. Win-win. Alright. That does indeed look simple enough. Should be able to press that deeper, no problem. And then on the cover of the pump here, we'll have to take this down 200 thou, which, oh yeah, there's all kinds of surface here. It can handle that. So we'll just have to take this down 200 thou to accommodate that moving 200 thou. So what I'm going to do, like I said, because this is my test run, I'm going to take this gear, I'm going to get a measurement on this, and I'm going to press it, see if I can get it 200 thou. Ideally perfectly, if not, hopefully close. And actually might be a way that I can come up with a stop so that when it hits 200 thou, that's as far as it will go. Let me see what I can come up with. Ooh. That was scary. 628. I'm shooting for 685. Might have to switch what socket I'm using because it looks like I'm already hitting. Alright, different socket. This one is risky because this one could potentially go too far. So we're going to have to take it real slow. Ooh, let's see what that did. $648 is what that says. We're looking for 685, so a little further. Go. That moved a lot. I bet you I went too far. Oh, 677. I didn't quite make it. 680. 680. 680.05. You know what? I'm leaving it there. Because 5/1000 of an inch is probably not going to make the difference. Okay, so here we are. I don't have any screws in it. Let me. There we go. Yeah, I think you can't see it. I did a number on that one. So with that reassembled, I measured 185 thou stick out back here, which is seems about correct for how much we moved it. Now my curiosity falls into how much do we actually have to take off of this lip, because you see the profile in this gear leads me to believe that it's probably not as much. Oh, maybe it is. Nope, we gotta take the full amount off. There's a step in here that accommodates into there. Okay, so now we know. Alright, so got it jigged up in the milling machine here. I've got a 0 set back there. I've already touched off on this. This is the one that's got to come down 200 thousandths to get to what we're looking for. So I think I'm going to take that in. I'm going to start with a 50 thousandths cut and see where that brings us. Hopefully that's not too heavy of a cut. I'm new to this machining thing. I don't know. Alright, so let's pull this out and see how everything fits. I think that will do the trick. If we need to go more, we'll go another 25 thou. Alright, so I got the shafts back in the pump body here. I got one screw in it to hold it tight together. There's my gear. I dropped my gear on there and we are doing fine for clearance on the metal, or on the housing. Problem is, now we're touching just ever so slightly on this shaft right here. So I think what I'm going to end up having to do is grind this shaft down a little bit. Now granted, I did just try it without this shaft in here, and it looks like it clears just fine on the aluminum. Let me pull it apart, I'll show you. There's the gear without the shaft in there, and you can see there's just a little bit of clearance in there, and honestly I think it's enough, because it's probably I don't know, eyeballing it. I'm not that experienced. I'd call that about 10/1000ths of an inch there worth of clearance. It probably wouldn't hurt to trim it a little bit. Maybe I'll give that a go. Maybe I'll take this into the mill again and I'll lick this down just to take about, 15/1000ths off of this. And then this thing, I could fairly easily take this and just grind this face down a little bit. Should work pretty good. Alright, so again, I'm just touched off right there, so I'm going to wind it up. 15 thou. And there, that should be plenty of clearance. And I didn't even have to do the whole thing, it just needed a little bit on the edge there. Alright, so there's reassembled. Just a little more clearance there than it had. So that's pretty good. Now I still got to figure out how I want to cut this down. And then there's the issue of I need to trim a little off of the face of this. Alright, so I got that clearance there. I actually just about nailed it totally on accident, considering I was just eyeballing that part. So I've learned a little bit on this one, so that when I go to do the next one, I know to do things a little differently. Like that step in there, instead of going 175/1000ths, I'm probably only going to go 150. Or whatever lines up with this rib right here, because that's probably deep enough. But if I don't go enough, I can always cut more, whereas this is cut kind of deep. I don't think it makes that big of a difference, but it'd be nice to just get it right. This thing fits really good. That clearance cut did really good. So now I gotta just cut the back of this shaft down, which, like I said, that one's gonna be kind of a pain in the butt. I don't really want to do it the way I just did the other one, because that's a lot of material I got to take off. But we will see how it goes. Okie dokie. So, I cooled that down in some water. Things look good. It wasn't really that hot, so I'm not that worried about maybe potentially damaging the finish. I think it'll be okay. So there's those two gears. Flip that around. It's almost perfectly flush with the housing, which I'll have to test fit it on the engine. I may need to take another couple thousandths off of that just to get it right. Maybe I will just do that anyways. There we go. Now there's a little bit of undercut to it, so that when it's installed, because there is a rib that runs through here, when it's installed that shouldn't touch the rib. So far things are looking pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied with the overall fit and finish. Now I just got to get my fly cutter. Alright, so back in the shop. We're going to see if I managed to make it work. Alright, so it appears I'm still hitting, and I need to machine some more off. But I don't think it's very much. It's really close. And it looks like I could have machined a little lower here. So we're going to measure down this way. 1.605. And then this to here. 2.882. Then I'm going to measure the depth of this thing using the block as a straight edge. So I need to add this number to this number to figure out how short we are of hitting that number. So two point 87273. So going off of that, comparing this one to this one says it's bigger by 9 thousandths. So technically, so that's what it is. I need to machine 9 more thou off of this to get it to where it's flush. Or not 9 thou. Is that 90 thou? That don't make that math ain't mathing. 9 thou. 2 zeros. There we go. 90 thou. So I got to do 90 thousandths. Got to do 90 thousandths on that surface to get it to sit the rest of the way down. But then I need a little extra clearance, and I don't know what an appropriate clearance number is. So I'll probably start with some arbitrary number of another 10 thousandths. 10's kind of big, right? So 19 thousandths should do the trick. And then I'll check everything to make sure it's still thick enough. That's one of the things I'm going to test before I go and buy the other pump and do it, is I'm going to take this and I'm going to, I don't know, hit it with a hammer or something and see if it cracks and see how hard it is to crack, because if it's really paper thin, I might not do this. But if it's got a little bit of meat left to it, then I'm willing to give it a try. Alright, I'm going to take another little bit off because I feel like 10 thousandths is too tight of a clearance. 20 would be great. That might be what I do. It still feels reasonably thick in there, so I think we'll be okay. I'm trying to think of a way that I can measure that. Probably use this surface as a reference, measure down and measure this way. Give that a try. Thou. Not the most perfect measurement, but I'm more doing it for peace of mind. And it's So there's still 100 thou there worth of material. It's probably good enough. I'm really happy with that finish. That little cutter's really good. I don't know if the camera will get a good grasp on this, but it clears. It's not by very much, but it clears. And I'm definitely happy with it. It fits good. This gear meshes very, very close to perfect. I mean, I can feel a slight difference, but looking at it, it's almost perfect. I honestly don't know if I would have... Focus. Honestly don't know if I could have gotten that any better deliberately, so I'm very satisfied with the fit and finish of this. I don't see any reason that this will lead to any problems with you know, that being machined out in there. It didn't really you know, it's still thick. It's still 100 thousandths thick, which is pretty thick, especially considering this is the suction side of the pump, so it doesn't have to deal with any pressure. So I'm happy with that. This works good. One last thing to check, and that is that the cover will fit over the top of this. And I think there might be some grinding that needs to be done to make it clear this. I'm not 100% sure, so let's see. Looks to be a nice tight fit. Sorry about that. All the way around, I don't see any gaps anywhere. You can see better than I can right now. I don't think it's touching anywhere. And if it were to touch, I would just take a little out of the cover. I don't think it's touching. Like I said, there's no gaps anywhere. It doesn't teeter-totter. It fits good. So I think this is done and dealt with. Water pump should still mesh in perfectly because nothing changed in that regards. So now we just gotta get the oil pickup tube to fit down the pan. Alright, so the engine's upside down now, and I tell you what, this clears for days on the timing cover. So I think, as far as the timing cover is concerned, it is perfect. Nothing to worry about. That part of this project is handled. We just need to do the machining on the pump, and now it fits. So next up, we're going to work on the pickup tube, which I'm not 100% sure how it installs, but we'll figure it out. That wasn't hard. That wasn't hard at all. I like that. That's simple. I like simple. Okay. So this pickup tube is a little bit damaged. It is a used part, just the same way as the oil pump is. I've got a new one on the way, or a new used one, because honestly it's a pipe. I'm comfortable taking the risk on that, because cleaning this pipe really shouldn't be that hard. It's a pipe. And I got a borescope. I'll look inside of it before I install it on the engine. Okay, so I got that all blued out. I'm going to remove this windage tray and test fit it again and see if it fits good without the windage tray, because if it fits good without it, then I know I don't need to modify the pan itself. I only need to modify the windage tray. So we'll start with that. Your hands. So sighting down the holes, it looks like this is nice and lined up. Don't look at my toes. It does teeter a little bit, but I heard about needing to shave the front of the pan, but I don't think I have to, because I can push this back like 1/16 of an inch or 3/32 of an inch, which leads me to believe that there's no need to shave the front. I am hitting right here. There was that nipple in the pan, and I'm guessing that's exactly what the problem is that nipple. So we're going to give that a check. I'm referring to this dimple right here. You can see the little discoloration like it's been hitting, and that's what it is. That nipple is for this oil pan bolt. So I've got some options here. Let me see how high it's sitting. So it's sitting pretty high. It looks like 3/16 of an inch probably it needs to come down for clearance. I do believe somebody on the internet said that they just dimpled the pipe on the pickup tube to accommodate that bump. I am tempted over grinding this down. Now that would leave me with a screw hole that would be open to oil on the back side of the pan. But the thing is, RTV will seal that. That's not a big deal. That won't leak. Maybe I'll do a little bit of both. Maybe I'll dimple the pickup tube and do some grinding on the nipple. And looking at this, it can be seen that this pickup tube actually fits right in that groove down the middle. That's where it hits. Going off of that rub mark, I'm going to say this thing sits right about here. So really, I could probably just, from this front edge right where this hole starts, just all the way back, just take it off right inside these loop-de-doos here, and that will open that up. So I entirely forgot to hit record on that, but hey, I caught it before I smoothed it out, so I guess that makes it better. So I ground on it a little bit, technically still sealed. I'm going to blow this out, we'll try it again. I think that's cut as far as I need it to go. I'm just going to take a file and knock these burrs off the edge so I don't have to worry about that. Wipe it down, blow it off. We'll test fit everything. Alright. So it's still hitting that pretty hardcore right there. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to stick it on the vise and take a ball peen to it and see if I can make it a little better. That is a pretty substantial flat spot. Didn't get it exactly right. It's kind of on the side. I would have preferred that more in the middle, but it probably will work. Looking at the dent through the hole, I probably went a little aggressive with it, but it fits good. When I get the new tube, I'll dent it less, and then I'll work my way to it a little at a time. Alright, so, yet another day. These videos take a long time to make. A lot of little clips I gotta add together. But it's another day, and this showed up in the mail. My new to me, still used, pickup tube. But this one is not crushed like the one that I have is. So, I'll work on getting the new dent installed in this one. And then I'm going to check the clearance to the pan with a little bit of Play-Doh that I'm going to steal from my kids. And while all of that's going on, I did something with this fan over here. So, I know it looks kind of hacked together, and that's because it is. That is a blower motor out of a air handler for a house, you know, your air conditioner. It's reasonably quiet, it's a squirrel cage, and it moves a lot of air. So we're gonna find out if that makes too much noise to be running in the video or not, because it's Florida and it's hot, and I'd like some air movement. So I'm gonna leave that running, and when I edit this, if it's too loud, well, I'll know that I gotta be more careful with it. On to the engine. So I'm going to do the same thing I did last time and just take the oil pan and kind of rub it on there, because when I do that, it leaves a very nice mark that makes it very easy to see exactly where I need to put the dent in it. Something just came flying through my fan. a bit. I think I'm going to use the flat side because I think it's going to give me better results for what we're doing here. Alright, wasn't very much. Let's give it a quick test try. Still teetering on it, but it's very close. Alright, that's it. Doesn't touch anymore. I tell you, that pipe moves fast, because looking in the hole, it looks like there's a big gap again. Just to give you a closer look, to see just how much of a dent that is. It's really not that much of a dent at all. Because, you know, you're taking a round thing and you're just making it flat in one spot. It really won't do very much. So there's a little dent there. And then over here at the upper oil pan, I ground on this nub. Not enough to grind through and see threads, so it's still perfectly sealed. You can see that nub, that's what it used to look like, because those two nubs are the same type of thing. So I pretty much just took the top off of it where it's not round anymore. I just kind of flattened it out. And that was enough to get that clearanced. And then I channeled out right between the bolt holes here of the windage tray. And looking back at it now, and seeing how it fits, if you're trying to do this yourself, you probably don't need to take out quite as much as I did, and it will probably still fit. But those slots inside the windage tray were very convenient cut lines, so I went ahead and just followed the slots that were already there. And it's really not that big of a difference, I don't think. Let me see. Here's... Oopsie doodles. So here's the pickup tube that the broken one, and you see with it sitting in there, there's definitely some room that could have been left behind, but not very much. So I'm comfortable with my decision to cut it as far as I did. It fits good, and I think it will work just fine the way it is. So this video is going to be a lot longer than I thought it was. But now, between getting this sorted out, getting that sorted out, and getting that sorted out, the only thing left to do is wait for the new pump to show up in the mail. Aha! Just testing your memory. By that I mean mine, because I forgot we're going to check the depth on this. Couldn't find any Play-Doh, but I found this sand that is very sticky. I don't understand why it's like that, but it still belongs to my children. So I'm going to set that right there, mount it up nicely like that, and we'll take the pan and we'll rub it around and see what happens. That's pretty thick. Lands at about, give or take, 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to go ahead and guess that that's plenty of clearance. And considering the size of this pipe, it probably needs every little bit of that. So tighter would be bad. So that just goes to show this pickup tube works perfectly fine with LB7 oil pans. So just minus the little bit of grinding and cutting. So that's a really big plus. And yes, this thing is bolted down, so it's not moving for this test. So this so far actually really has not been that bad, and I truly believe that if somebody else was trying to mimic what I'm doing here, it would not be very expensive at all to take that oil pump to a machine shop and have them do the machining on the face and put a pin in it while it's there if you want to use a stock one, or buy the high-end one that's already pinned and then just take it to the machine shop and have them put that little bit of a gouge in it. And then do that machining on the shaft, take it to them in separate pieces and just tell them what you want done. I bet you it only cost you maybe $100. It really ain't that bad considering. So, this is really a feasible swap that I think anybody could do if they really wanted it. And I am very happy with how this is going so far. Also, just one of my pet peeves that I have. Look at the shape of this oil pan. This part is higher than this part, which, you know, if it was facing the right way around, that means this part's lower than this part. The reason why this is a pet peeve of mine is not specifically this oil pan, but if you're like me and you're interested in purchasing an aftermarket lower oil pan for your Duramax, a lot of the advertising will say it's a flat bottom pan to get rid of that half a quart of the dirtiest oil in your engine because it doesn't get recycled when you drain it out the plug. I filled this up with water and I measured it on the ground level. There is a quart that sits in this pan. If this engine is sitting correctly in the truck, sitting level, this upper oil pan will hold a quart of oil per oil change. You leave this to a stock pan, you add the both together, you get a quart and a half of oil, of dirty oil, per oil change. But I don't care how much marketing you do to say that this one's better. If you've already got a quart of dirty oil, that half a quart really doesn't make that big of a difference at that point, because there's a whole stinking quart in there. Now, if you could change both of these to flat bottoms and get rid of all of it, that would actually be an improvement, in my opinion. But as it sits, I think it's gimmicky that they say that this gets rid of that half a quart, because it's kind of pointless when you still have a quart sitting in there. Thank you for joining my TED Talk. Alright, so we're back in the home shop here, and we're going to do final assembly on this oil pump. Oh boy. Which means just a quick little cleanup inside of it with some brake parts cleaner. Oh my, that is tough to get apart. As you've seen, I machined in the same groove here, and my way of making these match is I used this bottom edge as a reference surface, and I was measuring the thickness here. So I'm pretty confident, I never measured the bottom plate, but I'm pretty confident that this is going to be the same as that. These pumps should be identical. The only thing I've noticed is this one has a number 3 on it and this one has a number 2 on it. I don't know what that means, but outside of that they appear to be completely identical to me. So like I said, I'm just going to get it cleaned up, get some new Loctite on those bolts, get them tightened back down again. I'm not really sure what torque they were set to, but I'm also... I'll do some Googling, I'll figure it out. Alright, so I can't seem to find a torque spec on this specifically, so I'm just going to go with pretty snug. I feel like that's an appropriate torque spec. To mount the oil pump to the engine was 15 foot-pounds. That ain't bad. Okay, so this came assembled with blue Loctite. I only happen to have orange at the moment, and I'm practically out of it, so I need to buy more anyways. But we are assembled with some assembly lube, nice and clean. Makes a delicious sound. Sounds like it's burbling at me. I don't know if there's supposed to be a seal in here. I need to look that up now. Alright, so yeah, there's an O-ring that goes in there, and I was able to find it in one of my gasket kits. But I've got the engine hung here sideways, so it's easier to just kind of see what I'm doing here. This is supposed to be 15 foot-pounds. I would imagine I'm assembling that with a little bit of engine lube. That's usually how internal bolts work. And please excuse the hodgepodge of hardware, because remember, I'm not starting with an engine. I'm building parts here, and I'm using what hardware I have on hand, and sadly the only bolt that was long enough was a black one. These other ones are actually stainless because they were supposed to hold like the oil pan on and stuff. So I'm just going to put a little snug on them with the wrench. Hopefully that clears the gear. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to come back to the drawing board on that one. And this bolt goes to 74 foot-pounds. Oh boy. That's not good. Yeah, that's not good. I'm gonna have to jam this a different way. Alright, so I just stuck the wrench inside one of the bores inside the counterweight of the crank. Of course, now the engine's turning on me. Alright, that's it, torqued. So that's a done deal. I couldn't be happier with it. It fits really good. I've got no clearance concerns. You can see spinning it around, everything looks good. So I'm just gonna go through here, add some assembly lube and some rust inhibitor, and then we'll loosely fit the cover and the oil pan, and that'll be it. Just to show everything is still in the clear, there's our front cover. I need to put a new dowel pin in it. I accidentally knocked out the wrong one when I was messing with this. So, excuse the fact that it's not quite right. That's the timing cover installed nice and tight. Then we have our water pump, which I think it faces what, that way. Alright, and you can tell that's nice and meshed in still because nothing changed with that gear set. Because this gear engages on the cam gear, which is gigundo, and the offset stayed the same. So everything's good on that end. Alright, so just to recap as I close this out, this wasn't that hard to do. I'm going to tell you measurements, but I honestly highly recommend you double check and do your own math, but I'll tell you what I did. So This main shaft that gets the driven gear on it, the driven shaft, we took 200 thousandths off of the back side of the shaft and then pressed the gear the same 200 thousandths forward to accommodate how much we removed off the back. And then a quick little hit with the flappy wheel just to clean up any burrs. And that's that front shaft done. This lower shaft, which you saw me struggle a little bit with the Allen key, so technically you could do the same thing, take the material off the backside and then just push the gear, but I really didn't want to press it. I'd rather not press it, so I just took it off of the front. Gave me a little bit of difficulty, but we took off approximately 60 thousandths of an inch off of that one, which is about a 1/16 of an inch, so not very much. And then the casing right here next to that second gear, we took off about 15 thousandths worth of this aluminum, and it didn't need to be the whole thing. It could have been just right here under where the gear swings over, because that's all the clearance is for this gear. But I took off about 15 thousandths right there. Could do that with a flappy wheel if you really wanted to. Same thing goes for trimming down these shafts. You could do it with a flappy wheel on a grinder. I would just highly recommend dipping the part in water regularly so you don't overheat it and mess up any of the heat treat or temper that's on them. So 60 thousandths, 15 thousandths, and 200 thousandths off of that shaft. Now, spare parts for the win. Oops. So, you can see how on this one I only machined this little bit off the edge. That's all it needed. It wasn't much at all. Right here, where the driven gear goes, I originally machined this down, I want to say it was 180 thousandths of an inch. On this new pump, I didn't go quite as far. I left that one flush with the casting here. So right when I saw the tool hit this casting line, that's when I stopped, and it still fits great. So that's where I would say, not a specific number, just match the casting line. You're pretty good. This radius here that needed to be clearance for the reluctor wheel, I don't remember the specific number on that one, but I can tell you that if you measure from the thickness right here, from this machined face forward to this machined face, it is sitting at right at 1.9. Let me grab my calipers. Okay, correction. 0.9. It's almost exactly 0.9. Depending on how I measure it, the number changes a little bit. My tool might not have been running completely square when I cut it, but it's right at 0.9 of an inch. So 900 thousandths from flat spot to flat spot. And then the radius, I highly recommend you do what I did and use this to draw your radius so you know where you're cutting, because I couldn't tell you how to line that up otherwise. If you're having a machine shop do it, draw your little line for them so they know, and then tell them this needs to be 900 thousandths of an inch thick. And then same thing goes for this casting line. And then just a little bit of clearance here. And then with the shabs, like I said, 200 thou off of that, and then a little bit of pressing. And then this one, I took about 60 thou off of the nose of it. Everything fits great. I have full confidence that this is going to work 100%. Because I've seen other people do it, though they did not put together as good information as this. Now, actually, I don't know how good this is yet. You'll tell me. As far as getting the oil pan to fit, you just have to cut down the middle of the windage tray, grind a little on the nub, and then beat the tube a little bit right where it hits the nub, or don't grind the nub and just beat the tube a little further. Honestly, that dent in the tube shouldn't impede oil flow at all. I'm not a scientist, I'm just confident. So yeah, that's what it takes to get an LML pump into your LB7 or LBZ or LLY Duramax. And I hope this information has been helpful. I hope that this gives you the little bit of courage that you need to go through with the swap if you're thinking about it. It's really not that hard. I don't know how much it would cost to take this to a machine shop because I did it myself, but I really believe it would not be that expensive because the tooling needed was very basic and simple. I bought it myself for the machine that I used, and it was like 50 bucks. So I'm pretty sure they'll take care of you. No big deal. No great expense. And you get the benefit of 11% more oil flow with this newer pump. And then you also get the benefit of these pumps are a lot cheaper. I don't know why, but they're about 150 bucks cheaper, coming pinned and shimmed for higher oil pressure and gear that won't spin. So if you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it, and I hope I've helped you. If I've helped you, let me know in the comments. I'm bad at reading them, but if I see it, I will like it or whatever. And like I said, I hope I helped you. I truly did. If I helped you, maybe consider subscribing. If you just like watching me ramble about a Duramax and potentially other projects that I haven't started yet, maybe you should consider liking as well and subscribing. If I didn't earn it, I'm sorry. I tried. And hopefully I can catch you again in the future with another video. Sorry this one was a little bit late if you're actually paying attention. I went on vacation and life did what life does, and parts didn't show up in time, so it had to wait till I got back. Yeah, I'll catch y'all later. Thanks for watching.